does have some great tools to be able to deal with aggro druid. The biggest one being the perpetual flame. And just like the big temple swings, right? That first quest completion, if you can be able to swing the board, reset your mana crystals, and have a powerful turn on the next turn as well, that can sometimes be a little bit too much to handle for a deck that relies on being on board to stay ahead and win games.
That's right. It's playing a 0 mana card that gains you 2 mana crystals with no downside. Hey, that sounds pretty good. Maybe Druid should consider playing that at some point. That would be busted. Because yes, it's just the extreme tempo that you're gaining through Bloom, through the Perpetual Flame, Serpent Shrine Portal, Lightning Bolt, whatever it may be. It's so powerful. And here for Xiao Wang, a weird hand, an interesting hand, but one that can be very powerful. I would honestly be kind of tempted to full keep here, actually. It's a little slow, but gets him an awful lot of value. But in the end, he tosses away both the Guidance and the Diligent Note Taker. And he's going to be pretty happy about it. This is a premium anti-aggro hand to get.
Yes, it is. But Alutemu's got the premium, I'm an aggro deck, but I don't have an aggro start. Joke's on you. Kind of hand. The full combo start. Ooh, okay. But actually going to play it for tempo. Really? I guess it's a little bit too long to wait. I don't know.
Is it?
Because let's say the Battle Guard sticks, then you can just go Oracle Balloon plus the second Pack Mule next turn.
I mean, that's good, but say it dies. Say they have either Coin Serpent Shrine, Lightning Bolt, or Perpetual Flame. Like, all of those may go wrong, or even some combination with Overdraft could potentially get it done as well. Like, there's a lot of punishes to this play. I think I just like playing a Mule.
Okay. He opts to go with your play. See if it's going to work out for him. Got some some time to wait for. Whoa! Whoocha! That's
That'll
good.
do nicely.
Yeah. Oh, and then are you really going to pass this turn, though?
I mean, I'm playing Mule, right? I guess you could theoretically just pass, because you're probably going to use the Park Panther next turn, and the 3 attack from that kills this minion anyway in the Lady Vash. So Hero Power Face is, I think, actually quite reasonable.
Okay.
But I mean, the problem is, so if you don't play the minion, like I said, you can just go Park Panther to kill it off next turn. But that's assuming they play something else for your Park Panther to attack into. They could just go like, I don't know, Guidance Pass or Guidance Lightning Bolt, whatever. And then you have to sack your Park Panther into the Lady Vash because there's nothing else to attack into. And so this is a slightly riskier play, but it looks like it's one that's going to pay off gorgeously. Because look now, for Aluthemu, clear the 2/2, keep your Panther on board, clear off the Lady Vash, and you still are leading beautifully into that turn 6 combo.
Yep, just needs to find a play to make in the interim, but has some stuff to just put in the way. So, yeah, this has worked out quite nicely. Ooh. The combination of Zapper plus Landslide could be pretty big in the grand scheme of things here, looking at the next couple turns.
Ooh, that'll do nicely, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Works out.
Could have gone for either Lightning Bolt plus Deathmatch Pavilion or just this lava, can never remember the name of it, summon 2 1/1s. Could have ended with basically a 3/2 or a 1/1 here. The previous way in playing the Lightning Bolt would also have completed Quest, but that's not necessarily a good thing quite yet.
Yeah. Just playing an Oiltron and Hero Power?
Probably a 2/2 as well, right?
I guess. Well, you can't. Ah, yeah. Oh, the soil.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, he's in the
So
tank
that
on this
soil.
one.
I mean, okay, so what is the other alternative? Like, just branching out here, looking a bit more open-mindedly, it could be like Oracle plus Oracle plus Battleguard plus one of your 2-drop taunts, and then hope to set up for the Teacher's Pet next turn. But then, of course, Spell Power plus Lightning Bolt can make things go pretty wrong, or the Perpetual Flame with Spell Power as well. But in the end, Alutemu is just going for it. Even goes with the Mule instead of the Annoyatron, which means there are a couple of very, very powerful ways for Xiaowang to answer this, and he has got one of those in hand. He does have to order this carefully. He can't just go Zapper plus the Landslide, because this unlocks his crystal. So he has to play the Lightning Bolt first, but as long as he does that, this is a full board.
Can trade first because we'll still have the mana to do everything.
Oh, he's got it.
Oh, yes.
He's learned from his mistakes. No more
Now that's
landslide
an
errors.
overloaded mana crystal.
Oh, yeah.
And play for Alutemu. Quite punished.
It's a disaster. It's an absolute unmitigated disaster. Like, he's gone from being in a reasonable spot this game to being pretty far behind now, in all honesty. He can draw 3 cards on the next turn with his composting, obviously, to give all these minions death rattle or draw a card. But even then, it's going to need to be a very specific hand, I think, to be able to keep up.
Yeah. Like, the exact same hand that he dumped last turn. Second battle card.
That'd do.
What cards do I need? The exact cards that I played last turn.
Ooh. That's a spicy top deck. Vash Prime? Sign me up.
Yep. Can bloom it out as well. And this is going to be some insane tempo, most likely. Guidance, Lightning Bloom. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
That's tempo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, another landslide. Oh, Vivid Spores, too.
That's so
Post-quest
good.
completion.
Okay, so it's 7 cards he's summoning right now. If he goes Bloom, that brings it up to 8, which is exactly where you want to be. Oh, the maddest bobber! No way, it's actually the best pick here as well.
I told you.
Just good. And you don't actually have to end with the landslide. You can just go for a 3-2 here instead.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Oh, the hand he just had, TJ!
Wait!
The hand he just had! He got it back!
I don't even think it's enough. That's the problem.
It's probably not, but come on, that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
To be fair, Xiaowang has like no mana on this turn. He can play the landslide, which is a very big deal. Actually, just to nuke this board for 4 damage.
Yeah, his spell damage already.
That's pretty good. Fair enough.
Wait, it's not. It's not lethal, no, because the spell damage wouldn't quite hit the 4/5.
Yeah.
Like you could trade the 3/2 into the 5/6, but
yes. Yeah. Even then, he's only pushing 4 team phase.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Only.
Oh, Muckler. That's good. That survives 4 damage AoE. That doesn't. I think that was a Panther. You don't want that.
Yeah.
It's brutal for Alutemu. 2 times in a row he makes the exact same push. 2 times in a row he's met with landslide. He just concedes. Doesn't even want to see the end of this game. And Xiaowang, once again, 2 series in a row, starts with the Quest Shaman, meets an aggro deck and demolishes said aggro deck.
Yep. But we've come to learn that Quest Shaman's biggest weakness is itself.
So who's going to win?
Oh, wow. Derek, it seems I've stumbled upon a paradox. I hate when that happens.
Dang it, another hole in the space-time continuum. You gotta stop, DJ, you goof.
One of these days. One of these days. Yeah, I mean, I imagine that's just going to be the pick again, right? Because this is kind of how things played out in the previous series, and just, you know, have that faith in the mirror match, which they were able to get the better of in the series that we just saw.
Yeah, it did come at the hands of a pretty big blunder by Xiao Wang to lose to Possessi, who has clearly shown a recognition of that mistake by making what I thought was a harder play on this turn to realize that he was going to unlock his overloaded mana crystals and then still play the lightning bolt. Like, he handled it all very well on that turn. So I don't think he's going to make another blunder like that against Possessi. But even so, I think that Possessi showed a very clear affinity with the deck. Like, it felt like he knew what he was doing. He felt confident in his plays, because even though they weren't necessarily all ones that I would agree with, I tend to be a rather greedy player. I think we've gone a little bit less tempo heavy than him on the Shaman. He knew what he was doing, and that's always something to fear, is a player with a strong game plan who knows well how to execute it.
Yeah. Yep. But we'll see. I think that Quest Shaman's this is all assuming, right, that they're going to pick it, which we can, again, very well guess, since that's how it played out in the first series, and that helped give them an advantage.
Yeah.
It's a very weird matchup. I feel like it's gotten a little bit less swingy and more consistent with the addition of multicaster, right?
That's
it
true,
does
yeah.
more. I think it does more come down to your ability to the skill expression, right? Because you have access to more resources, so you have access to more consistent game plans. But we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I like that it doesn't often come down to any more one player just running out of cards, because you can just trust your deck with this Quest Shaman. Now, that's what I really like about it is, you know, if you have a hand that's just like Bloom, Canal Slogger or something, or some other card that just dumps a bunch of cards from your hand and allows you to gain a lot of tempo, you can just do that, because there's a good chance that the next card will be Guidance, Primordial Studies, Instructor Fireheart, Multicaster, just any of your other overload spells that keep the quest ticking as well. So you don't necessarily have to be too greedy, too cautious. You can be very liberal and just throw a lot of your resources down, which I think engenders a more spicy gameplay loop, a more exciting, as you said, end to most of these games.
Yeah. There it is. Possessi with the Quest Shaman.
And it's a pretty similar build by most regards. They don't have Landslide, and they instead have a Devolving Missiles. And they also have an extra Overdraft slotted in for, I'm not exactly sure. Well, one maker that they've taken out as well for the Japanese players. But still very, very similar. And it's going to be down to, as you said, this very complicated, dense matchup that can go in a lot of different ways. It can go very fast, it can go very slow. But no matter what, it always ends explosive.
It's a pretty cool stage. I mean, for all you know, I'm there.
You'd have to have done a lot of lying, like an uncharacteristic amount, but you're not wrong. Like, I've met your wife, who you said you're with right now. If you brought in an actress to pretend to be your wife all for this long con, it's technically possible.
That's me. I mean, I could have just flown there, like.
I guess that's true
and,
as well.
And Karen's still at home.
Well, see ya, kids. I'll be back sometime.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull a sick prank on Derek. And it just culminates in when it's panning across the stage. You're just in the corner like, hey.
See, Dirk, I was here the whole time.
Don't you look stupid? Can somebody help me?
I need to get home.
I don't understand what anyone's saying. Karen.
All right, let's get this quest Shabamir underway. I can see it on the players' monitors from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, Possessy taking it nice and slow, doesn't want to coin out the Serpent Shrine Portal, which is smart. These early turns can kind of end up like Serpent Shrine tennis, where you want to be the player who responds to the opponent's Serpent Shrine to kill their minion, rather than just sending it face. So I do think it's smart to take it nice and slow for Possessy.
Yep. Ooh.
Not bad, not bad.
What's that, Blistering Rot? Is that what that's called?
I'm going to say yes.
Let me Google Blistering Rot and then hope that Hearthstone... Yep. I was right. Dangerous Google there.
Yeah.
Sometimes
you're going to be like, yep, I have to gouge out my eyes.
Not the card name, not the card name!
Stop, I wasn't feeling lucky.
Well, this is a problem.
Yeah, you can just coin Multicaster, right? It only draws a single card, but it does contest reasonably well. This Lurker on the other side, or Canal Slogger, sorry. But instead just decides to go with one of his own, progressing his own quest nicely. And of course, saving the Multicaster does carry a lot of benefit, because it can draw you plenty more cards as the game goes on. Wow. Now you probably just have to go for it.
Yeah. Just take your card. Oh,
Wow.
okay.
He's greeting it hard. Like, you know, we can say that he wants to hold on for another spell, but it's really specific. It's one of 4 cards in his deck that can juice up this Canal Slogger. Oh, sorry, this Multicaster further, because it has to be exactly Perpetual Flame for Fire or Primordial Studies for Arcane. And also, as well, sorry, he is running 1 Devolving Missiles, which is also an Arcane spell. So there's 5 cards he can draw, which is, you know, just under a quarter of his deck. It's not unreasonable to hold out for it, but if he's holding on for more than 1 or 2 turns on this Multicaster anyway, it's not going to get... It's going to get a lot worse if he doesn't hit one of those extra cards.
Yeah, because he also needs... He wants something to do with these Diligent Note-Takers as well.
Yeah.
And the longer he waits, the longer all 3 of those cards kind of stay dead in hand. And the Charge Call to an extent as well. So...
That was interesting. I think Kobold, the first 2 letters on Kobold Geomancer translated to Doghead, which is quite an accurate translation of a Kobold, I guess.
Yes, it is. This broadcast in general will definitely help with your Chinese lessons.
Oh yeah, it's coming along smashingly. Can't wait to just tell my teacher I know how to say Doghead. You're probably just looking at tradable now, right? Wow, okay. I was going to say, like, this hand just needs something extra. It doesn't need much extra. Like, if you get 1 guidance, your hand is absolutely sorted for the rest of the game. That's all it takes. But you need to get there. You need to actually find it, which he still had not done.
Hey! Okay.
I mean, that did not matter, that last one at all.
Well, no, that height was at the, just in general, being able to hit the... Oh, yeah!
Okay, looking to get this 3-3 on board, you would imagine, but weirdly enough, both players here actually feel like they're running a little low on value. And at the same time, both players are really close to never running out of value for the rest of the game. Like I said, one guidance for either player, and they are just sorted. They will easily be able to get through to Brucan, and then be able to generate plenty of value for the rest of the game. But it's kind of just a race to find it, while both players have weirdly similar hands right now, and weirdly two hands that really don't do much of anything.
Possessi could go full tempo. Just play out all the novice zappers in a charged call.
Oh yeah, the gold novice zapper.
He'll get a triple. Oh, baby, a triple. Could always start with trading away the overdraft as well to see if that makes his hand any better.
Yeah, that's where my head was at. But I guess he's just going max tempo. He can get a 7 drop, which again is not really what you're after. It might actually even be better to just go for a 6 drop here, weirdly enough. Because if it's one of the spell-activated minions, like Auctioneer or Mage Scribe, more importantly, you could end with Overdraft in order to proc it. And, I mean, like I've said a few times, there are just very few good 7 drops. It's really Alabaster or Stormwind Champion, sorry, that really make it worth it.
Yeah.
Oh, he's roping out here. That quest proc is taking up a lot of animation times. Stormwind Champ? Okay, okay. He missed damage on the attack because of the ordering, but who cares? He got the big beefy minion, and it's really, really scary. However, Xiao Wang again with this tech card of the landslide with double spell damage buff here is illegal. Look at how good this is.
This is insane. I feel like we've seen so many crazy moments for landslide in this the past 2 series. Just the massive swing, just gets to trade the 1-1, completely clear board. And both players' hands still similar.
Oy, oy, oy.
Oy, oy, oy.
Xiao Wang now with his own 7-cost minion, if I'm counting correctly here, off of the Diligent Note Taker plus Charged Call. So he clearly wants his own. Ooh, okay, I was going to say Stormwind Champion, but I mean, it's a 4/7, it's not much else.
I guess you just take your charged call.
You're not happy about it, but I agree. I mean, but okay, so if you actually want to win this game, what does Charged Call do? Because it's still a 7-cost minion. There are no 7-cost minions that pull you back here, right? Like again, like I said, maybe Alabaster if they draw the perfect card for you. I'm not even sure what that would be so good at 1 mana, because this deck curbs very low. And so do you have to look for something more impactful? Do you have to trade here and look for Perpetual Flame and just hope that it dodges the 4/7 for the entire rest of the turn?
Or
Let's go for 2 of them, it looks like. Okay, that's not bad.
Le Baron!
Sacre bleu!
And it buffs the
That's pretty sick. Yeah, that's cool.
The bone chewer.
Bone Chewer Vanguard, I think. Yeah.
Is that really what it is?
I think so, yeah.
My brain wanted to say Bone Chewer, but then I bailed out at the last moment. It's like, that ain't it.
Shut up, brain. We had an agreement. Not while I'm casting. Yeah. Daddy's working.
Oh!
Oh, it's the same 3 again! It's literally the exact same 3, and again, it has to be Maddest Bomber. That's hilarious.
That's incredible.
It just has to be. Abyssal is terrible every time you pick it. You just never pick this one.
Okay. Most players are grasping at straws. I mean, do you take the diligent note-taker value?
Okay, so there's there are some really good discovers here. Like Steward of Scrolls can be huge. Obviously, trading or drawing in the form of Guild Taker or Thalnos. You may as well play the other one because it's going to be the same cost anyway, I suppose.
Yeah.
Trade, yeah, I'm taking that.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, Torrent! Oh my god!
That is insane.
That's
insane.
He's ahead! He's actually winning on board again. I thought Possessi was so far out of this game. I didn't think this was in the realms of possibility to swing it back, but he's actually doing it.
Feral Spirits. Where we at on Quest?
He will be at 2 out of 3 after this, because he summoned an 8-drop, which means he was at 1 out of 3 going into this turn. So you play it, I think, just so that any Overload card allows you to play Brucan. And I mean, then you can just go face if you want, right? As long as you're not afraid of tanking the damage.
Yeah.
I mean,
Feral Spirits are a little bit awkward with the Baron getting on the board just the way the health is, so yeah, I think this is fine.
Yeah, I guess you do actually have to trade the 4-2, otherwise it's just going to take out a wolf. Like, Xiaowang is the defender right now. Possessi is the aggressor. He needs to recognize that.
Well, there's not a good way to get through it if you trade off the 4-2. The trades are pretty clean. Otherwise,
that's what I mean.
I guess you...
Yeah.
I guess the spell damage is still relevant.
Oh! I'm playing that first. Nah. I want the mana for Tidal Wave. That would be good.
You're not wrong.
Those are good too, though.
It's all good.
If he gets Zapper, that's Brucan on this turn. Oh! No way! No way! This is the comeback of the century from Possessed. My goodness.
But it makes the trades awkward, and your Baron kills off your board.
You get a 5-mana 7/7. Who cares? Who cares?
God, Derek, it was just a prank.
You just jump out behind Xiaowang. Gotcha!
Oh, he's going to save the...
Oh yeah, I mean, you just bump this in, right, and you don't attack with the Baron getting on this turn. You can squeak in 2 if you want. I think I'd rather give myself a 5 or 4.
Yeah, it's either you push 2 damage or you have 2 more health on your Baron.
Oh, look at that final top deck. The last quest progression. Baron, Brucan ready to go, but it just doesn't make a lick of difference. You have to hit Taunt to even conceivably live the turn. He misses. That's going to be it. And again, we're seeing the same pattern, TJ. Xiaowang wins game 1 against an aggro deck, but Possessi swoops in to dominate the mirror. This man is a beast in this matchup.
Yeah. And the patience really paid off, and honestly, the double 7s going for the double sevens on that turn was like a pretty massive decision. Obviously, it was rewarded quite heavily with you know, the combination of two, right? A taunt with high attack plus the Baron getting to clear off some of the board. Xiaowing wasn't able to get some good ones of his own. Had to just settle with the Matter Bomber, which is still big, or the Mattis Bomber, which is still
that's
big,
bigger than a Matter Bomber.
Yeah, oh yeah. And now we're back to square one. It's going to be Pirate Warrior again.
Probably is, right? It is what happens when you play 2 best of 5s in a row with the same classes, one might say. But yep. I do think that best of 5, the previous match that we had of the Pirate Warrior versus the Shaman, I'm glad we got to see it because it does show us what can happen in the matchup. But I don't think that's indicative of what generally happens in the matchup. That was an outlier where Murphy was able to draw an incredibly strong hand, curve perfectly, have the Mr. Smite at the end to close out the game. And Possessi was just left with an awkward hand. Like, he didn't have the removal he needed, couldn't get ahead on board at the start. But if you're factoring in Bloom, Guidance, Bolt, Perpetual Flame, Feral Spirits, Serpent Shrine Portal. Like, every card is good in the early game in this matchup, it feels like. And on average, like I said, I do think the Shaman will be able to lock down the board after taking a little bit of damage from weapons and cannons in the early and mid game. And then in the late game, once Rakara comes down, Shaman should be able to stabilize.
Yeah, with the sheer amount of value that it has at its disposal. But that does bode well for APAC. I mean, if they can take kind of an expected victory here, we're looking at a potential, you know, back-to-back series victories for them against Team China, which would be quite huge indeed. And maybe Team China decides to switch it up, but given, again, just what they did in the previous series that we watched, I expect it fully to be Pirate Warrior.
Agreed. I don't think they're going to be breaking any new territory here. And
Boom.
There it is. El Pirato Warriero, as they say.
As they say.
Again, like I said, a close matchup, one that I do favor the Shaman in. But I think Murphy, if nothing else, was just playing some really solid Pirate Warrior. He didn't have too much to think about. He was just playing his minions on curve, but he was good at it. I don't think he made any blunders. No plunder blunders.
What? All the pirate speak that I was going to do, you'd yell at me for, so...
Go ahead, be my guest.
Nope. I'll save it.
Yar.
Huh? He's full keep?
Is that really a full keep from Murphy? Surely not.
It looked like a full keep.
It's bold. I think that was a full keep. Wow, okay. I mean, he's got a 1, he's got a 2, he's got a 3, and he's got Mr. Smite!
Yeah, the Hearthstone curve. 1, 2, 3, 6.
Yeah. This game was built on 1, 2, 3, 6. Don't you be disrespecting it. Alrighty. Possessi, I actually am kind of inclined to go Thalnos here just to fill out the mana on this turn and keep your card draw rolling. He just played a arcane spell, and you really want to find nature before you go for this multicaster on turn 4 or 5. And so giving yourself extra card draw in this instance, I do believe to be of higher value than the quest progression that you are afforded with the Novice Sapper.
Yep. Need those resources. Okay, gonna go for the coin as well. Get the pirates on the board for the South Sea Captain potentially next turn.
Yeah, it's really nice. It gets the captain. It also gets the whetstone hatchet for 0 mana next turn. Super clean.
Yep. And then we're just a couple of mana away from Mr. Smite.
I mean, I guess if you think that you're just going to be completing the quest without even worrying about needing to mulligan for pirates anyway, like Mr. Smite is the outlier. It's the thing that nothing else in your deck does, whereas most of the other stuff is just a kind of homogenous group of smugglers and freebooters and raiders.
Yeah. We've seen how good Landslide can be.
Don't sound too excited about it. Here I go landsliding again. Yay, overload.
Perpetual Flame would be quite nice here.
It would be quite nice indeed. Or an overload card to be able to go with this landslide. I guess holding off a turn until he can get some spell damage as well. Do's makes sense.
Yeah. Certainly do's.
Oh, that's a draw. Fire the cannons as well? Or is that... Oh, that's one more quest progression. Never mind.
Yeah.
Hold on the cannon.
Oh, Mr. Smite. Getting buffed.
That's his name. That name again is Mr. Smite. Alright, Bloom can unlock these crystals, and because of the crystals it unlocks from the previous turn as well, it's also a multicaster. This turn for Possessi is hella juicy. Drawing him 2 cards at the same time off of Arcane and Nature, meaning his hand is nice and refilled, and he is, if nothing else, a tempo-charged cool gamer, especially when he's got himself the Diligent Note-Taker. So this is looking to just be a high-tempo, high-power mid-game for Possessi in the next 1 or 2 turns.
Yeah, Murphy's trucking along though. Can shiver some timbers to next turn to remove the board. That was quite good.
Perfect.
Yeah. Now just gets to rush in. Super efficient damage. He's thinking he hasn't swung yet, right? Is that what he's thinking? If he wants to swing first or not swing, maybe he did swing. I don't know.
I guess he's trying to save it so that he can guarantee himself the swing, or sorry, the swing to buff Mr. Smite. Like we saw it go up to 9 attack the previous outing for Murphy. And so why not again? You can just play both your other pirates next turn, get Rakara in hand, and buff Mr. Smite twice as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Oh. Oh yeah.
Wow, he's just going bloom, bloom. Oh, the Torajo Brave is okay, just because it's got kind of the biggest stats, but yeah, I guess the dragon is just a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
When you factor in the death rat.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. Wow. That was a very
All right. Cool. Yeah. This is full on tempo. Murphy's gonna have to dig deep in the tank for this next turn. Try and clear some off the board.
Man, that was a serious Hearthstone turn. Okay. That's so reasonable. Draw at the same time, though. It could be Cannoneer plus the Stormwind Freebooter, if I'm remembering the name correctly. And then that allows you the 3 attack to clear off the 3/3 and gives you Rakara in hand.
Yep. Still questioning the Mr. Smite keep, but I guess if you know that you're absolutely going to want it at a certain point in the game, that makes sense. That's good.
That's very good indeed. So I think this now puts him at 2 out of 3 for Brucan. He is going to need one more Overload card to be able to get there, which is why I think he was leaning towards the trade to start things off. But to be fair, this overdraft could be kind of good. You can just portal the 3/3 and then obviously play your Wolves and then trade the 2/1 and the overdraft into the 3/4, but because he could just take a value trade anyway, instead he's opting to go with the trade, and it works out nicely for him. On this turn, I'm actually kind of looking at the Perpetual Flame now instead. Unless he firmly disagrees though. Fair enough.
Yep. He's pushing so much damage.
He really is.
Like, there's not even room here to play the Rakara.
Go Rakara, Shiver Their Timbers on Dungar.
Okay, leave 11 damage on board. Oh no, you trade off 1. You leave 9 damage on board.
Exactly, yeah. Which is not a good break point by any stretch. You know, that is where you are dying to Lightning Bolt, Perpetual Flame, Lightning Bolt, Serpent Shrine Portal. Even just a little bit of spell damage plus an overdraft would also be able to get there. But realistically, how else are you winning this game? Like, if you go for the play of Anchorman instead, like, you can clear off a little bit more damage, but you're still going to tank damage and be facing the same problem next turn as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he's making the play. He's clearing off. Okay, technically a little less damage, leaving himself dead to less, but it doesn't matter in the end. It's the same breakpoints of 3 that kill him off, and it's the same Serpent Shrine off the top to lock out the game in favor of Possessi. And we're seeing a different game already. While Possessi lost his second game of the Shaman in the previous series, now he's got the win, and the counters to this quest Shaman look very slim indeed. The best that APAC had was a mirror, and when they won that, China had to go over to Pirate Warrior, which is an unfavorable matchup anyway, and now they're starting to really dredge the bottom of the barrel to try and find a counter. It's Shadow Priest, it's Face Hunter, it's Aggro Druid, it's Paladin as well. All of these decks are just straight up bad into Shaman.
But which one is the best of the bad decks? That's the question.
Paladin? Big question mark. I think.
Okay.
I think it's like the best deck and probably has the best chance of winning the next game, because the problem is here, this is APAC's X factor. This is what they haven't been able to utilize thus far, is because they're now 2-1 up, which I can't remember if they've been in that situation in any of the previous series. If their opponent goes with an aggro counter queue, they have this Control Warrior, which they haven't queued once because it's such a niche deck. It's almost for exactly these matchups, exactly this scoreline. Because if your opponent beats you with an aggro deck in the first game of the series, and you counter queue with Warrior, you're very likely to win, but then you are 100% to lose on the following game. Like, any of the decks that isn't a straight-up aggro deck, be it Paladin or Shaman, most likely, as the non-aggro decks, will just beat this Warrior almost 100% of the time. It just doesn't have a win condition. It's purely anti-aggro. Whereas here, because there's no response from China, if they have APAC have the counter queue to an aggro deck after this next game, the Warrior can just destroy any aggro counter queue that China go for here, which almost forces their hand into going for the Paladin, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I do feel like Paladin does have some game, right? It feels like Paladin's doesn't have that like super consistency level. It's got strong turns throughout the game, but it doesn't have quite the level of inevitability that Quest Shaman or many of the other Quest decks in the game have. It just doesn't quite have that power level once you get to like those super late stages of the game. So it does feel like it has like a much smaller window of opportunity to actually win, but it can get there for sure.
It can get there, yeah, absolutely. But it's going to be an uphill climb, and here we go. We see jumping into the game. Possessi obviously queuing up the Shaman once again. Curious to see how it's going to go, because it has big implications overall for the context of this tournament, with APAC and China drawing in Battlegrounds. They both get 1 point apiece. So this is an incredibly even affair, and if China get the win in this series now, it will of course be 2 points each. Whereas if Possessi close this one out, 3 points to 1 in the overall favor of APAC, puts them in a very good position and very unlikely to leave the tournament in 4th place come Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. Samyao, I mean, not the best hand for like a tempo start, but as a bannerman, Kero Rome can be quite good. Lord Brav, a lot of the utility cards, and not much else that really packs a significant punch.
Yeah, it's slow, but it's the kind of hand you usually get as Paladin. Like, unless you can hit exactly Aldor Attendant at the start of the game, this is generally the kind of start that you are looking at. Whereas Possessi's hand is just kind of okay. It's not doing anything especially powerful with the Note Taker plus Guidance, with some kind of a mid-game Instructor Fireheart, so it's a little low on value. But like I was saying earlier, you can trust your deck now with this new build of Shaman. There's so much draw and so much generation that you should be okay to just play relatively liberally.
Is Possessi really a imprisoned Phoenix gamer? Nope.
Nah.
Lied to once again.
I think this curve is pretty simple. Now you're looking at just bloom into Canal Slugger and then follow up with the Discover on Steward of Scrolls once your crystals are unlocked, going into turn 4.
Mm-hmm. So you unlock now?
I think so. I mean, the mana just works so beautifully, right?
Yeah. We go bloom into Slogger, and then next turn play the Steward of Scrolls. Yep, makes a lot of sense.
Like, I guess you could go bloom Steward instead, but I don't know. I kind of like just getting the Slogger down, leading into the mana crystals of the Steward next turn. Because the problem with this line is that you can't then go Lightning Bolt into the Canal Slugger, right? Because you can't. The overlocked mana crystals don't quite work out.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is a decent answer. Handful of holy spells in hand to be able to reduce, but still not a great way to kind of get back in this in a meaningful way. And now we're going to see Lightning Bolt. Kind of a, not a waste, but not really making full use out of the unlocked mana crystals as we would have with the other play, the Slogger first.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a little bit slower overall, and he does have to lose a full turn of playing big threats. But that's okay. It's not too terrible for him. He can still make some strong tempo plays in these more mid stages of the game. Yeah, probably hand, right, to set up for the Sunwing Squawker.
What have we seen so far? Just okay, yeah, 2 Arcane and Nature.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I'm tempted by this Revolve yet, to be honest. Even after the trade, 4 mana 3/4 is, to be honest, about average of what you're going to get for a 4-drop, and Revolve can get a lot better in this matchup when there's the Death Rattles of the Librams to take into account.
Yeah. Trying to plan out his turns to see if it's worth playing a guidance here, but just gonna go with the tradable, see what he gets. Gets a diligent note taker. Be good with guidance.
Very good with guidance.
Yeah.
A fantastic impression.
Thank you.
And I mean, we both know after the World Championship in Taiwan how good your Chinese is, so you could also give us a voice line from the camera.
Oh, jeez.
Never gonna let it go.
No, you are not, good sir. Another landslide. Was given a landslide earlier, offered. Okay, Truthseeker is good. Finally,
good.
let's him start getting the ball rolling on these Libram reductions. Can start making some more powerful turns.
Yeah, that's like the best top deck in his entire deck, I think, because all 3 of the Librams in his hand just become so much more powerful. Chance for another Libram of Hope here, or another Libram of Wisdom. He does end up with the Hope. And now, for Tsai Miao, it becomes a relatively simple affair, right? You chain big threats turn after turn. If things get too big on the other side, you let rip with the Justice and the City Tax. That's a game-winning plan right there.
Yes, it is. Problem is, again, like that window of opportunity, right? Before like Brukan can really start to get a lot of value, you have to be building these massive boards because you're just not going to be able to get through the sheer amount of value that Brukan can put out in those later stages. He's got the resources to do it now, but would need to be essentially ahead on board at this point, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, which is why this Truth Seeker was so absolutely crucial, because otherwise the best threat that he could play was a 4/5 in the Diligent, sorry, not in the Diligent Note Taker, in the Pupil, which is okay. It's reasonable, but it's certainly not going to stop your opponent from playing Brukan unless they're facing lethal on the turn after. Whereas these 8/8 taunt most certainly can stop your opponent from playing Brukan. They often have to go for alternate lines that involve clearing. They can be very inefficient if they're not able to find Hex or Torrent off of their Discovers. And from there, Paladin, again, just does not relent. It's threat into threat into threat, and that's where Shaman really starts to struggle. So 3 more overload effects needed to complete Brukan, which is very possibly doable on this turn. Probable even with the guidance and the draw of an overload card on the auction house. I forget the name of the card. Investment opportunity, that's the one.
Auction house. You said it earlier too, and I was like, what in the world is he saying?
Can't remember what it's called, okay?
But I let it slide that time. This time I won't stand for it. Alright. Possessy just going to keep the board under control. Really all he can do at this point as he waits to just tap the mana available. Got a ton of great tools in hand. Just needs the time to be able to use them.
True. And that top deck I don't think is enough to disincentivize Tsai Miao from just going for the standard plan of... well, actually, he could go for Libram of Hope, Libram of Wisdom, and then also 1 Devout Pupil, which sounds very good to me.
Yeah. And you can heal up the Truth Seeker.
Yeah, that's probably better.
Yep. Very powerful play.
Alright.
So many options here, to be honest. But we're gonna
Really
see what's in the box first.
Oh, double.
Runic carvings.
Yeah.
And double crucial. Okay, so
Double flame's very interesting. I mean, you probably start with revolve, right? Just to try and at least deal with some of these divine shields.
yeah.
Oh, is he just digging for lightning bloom instead? Oh! Okay, he's not using it on this turn. He's just tanking the damage. Reasonable enough. I guess you don't have to overreact here.
Yeah, he's going to go for a massive swing turn at some point. That,
Yep.
to be fair, will overload every single one of his mana crystals. But,
Yes.
all right, this is, like, very difficult. If you're going to do a turn like that, you have to make sure that you're making the best possible moves because you're essentially skipping your next turn when you go for the, post-Brucon, bloom, plus clear the board kind of turns.
Exactly right.
But side meow, he smells blood.
How much can he deal here? 12, 17, 18, 19? Like, if he really wanted to on this turn, which is just not enough right now. He needs to get his opponent into, like, dead to weapon range on the next turn. I think he'll realistically be able to lock out this game. He's still got a strong play. He's in a reasonable spot. He's pushing a lot of damage, has a very awkward board to deal with. But I think Possessi, with doubling up on every single one of his spells here, basically infinite mana to work with this Lightning Bloom as well, surely he can clear this up.
Surely.
Surely.
I don't know. All right, revolve first.
Okay, that's fine. Those are some small 6-drops.
Yeah.
So he can go
small enough.
double runic carvings for 7 rushes.
Yep. And then clean the rest up. Can he just get away with one perpetual flame?
He needs spell damage. If he had 1 point of spell damage, this would be infinitely cleaner. Trade. So he can go bloom up to 6 mana and then end with double portal on the 8-drop. So he doesn't need to target the Sneeds, right? Because he can finish that off with the double Serpent Shrine portal, right?
I don't think he wants to use a bloom. Okay.
He has
Got
to.
it.
He just has to. He's not using flame?
No, he has to.
He does have to.
Okay, well,
Okay.
skips a turn, but Samyao doesn't really have a good way to follow up on this.
That is
trying
true.
to capitalize on a turn being skipped. So
That's not a draw. That is a draw, though. Oh, Lady Leandrin off the top. It's so specific. He needed almost that exact draw, but it's just so strong here.
okay. Well, is it enough to threaten anything over 2 turns? No. 23 health is still a lot. Tough turn there for Possessi.
Taking it nice and quick, at least. Next turn, I mean, how much damage does he even have? He's got like 6, 12, 18 guaranteed. Sorry, without any Librams in the way for Taunt, because he would need to go for double Storm Strike and all of that. But the Libram of Hope is obviously going to put an end to any lethal attempt. So it's just back to the drawing board for Possessi, and once again, trying to clear up this gaggle of big taunts on the other side.
Yeah. But, again, still has essentially just as many resources.
You're not wrong. Yeah, this guidance, again, just gives him almost infinite cards. Like, he's just never going to run out.
Yeah. he going to end with?
It has to be a Libram, right? There's no way you're taking the risk on 19. Like, I do not feel safe on 19 versus family. Okay. Guidance to start us off. Very nice. Whoa!
Tidal wave.
That's
Is
big.
insane. That is huge.
Yeah, I'm taking both of those every day. Oh, those are good too. Whoa, those are pretty big. Those are pretty big indeed. You heal back up to, what is it, 7 activations you will get, because one of them is on Divine Shield, so 7 times 3, 21. You heal up to 30, so you're not dead on the following turn, but you still need to find a clear for all of this, plus at least another Libram of Hope.
Yeah, it just buys a turn.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it does. He's going to, just with the minions that are going to be left over on board, he's going to go back down to the same life total that he was.
And also that is, what, Marsh Hydra, which adds an 8-cost minion to your hand when you attack, which is low-key potentially insane for Time Me Out, depending on what he gets.
Yeah, it really is. Tyrion!
No way!
Okay. Would you rather do that over Libram of Hope to heal one of these back up, though?
No. I want to go Aldal Truthseeker, heal up the Hydra, and then pass.
Heal up the Hydra?
Heal the Hydra.
Why not heal the bigger thing?
Because heal Hydra.
Okay.
I mean, you
Fair
get
enough.
another 8-drop. It's good.
You got
It's
me.
just good.
Yeah. No, never mind. I was gonna say lethal? Question mark. That's a lot of damage.
It's a lot
Would
of
need
damage.
a lot more, but only 9 mana to work with the start of turn. No lightning bolts as well thrown in there, which is like the most efficient. It would just have been double Serpentine Portal with spell damage from 116.
So you can
Not
go
quite lethal.
Thalnos, double Portal, double Portal again, plus Perpetual Flame is still not actually a guaranteed clear. You need 1 extra spell damage here, I think.
It's
Oh, no,
no,
you-
it's guaranteed. Because it casts twice.
Oh no, yeah, it is. Sorry. Yeah, no, I was thinking that it could stop on the other one, but yes, no, you are. 4 spell damage, isn't it? Or the 4 damage overall with the 1 spell damage. Does get the job done. Possessi again, giga overloaded. But 2 is a lot different from 0. Maybe if he can find himself the overdraft off the top, this whole game just turns around. And again, it's just so back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But finally, at the end of this massive, like 4 or 5 turn skirmish, Saimiao's got a couple of decent threats. He's got himself the Parrot, he's got Tyrion, but the cracks are starting to show. It's finally starting to run out for him.
Yeah. Well,
Or is it?
well, the Squawker plays a hope, right?
Oh, it does, but that's the overdraft for Possessi, the single card that keeps him in the game no matter what. Now, he can just blitz anything that comes down, play 4 taunts off of the Feral Spirits as well. It might have been looking over for Saimiao if that hadn't come down, or over for Possessi in favor of Saimiao. But now, all of a sudden, things are looking so much better for Possessi.
Yeah.
I mean, you can kill the Parrot if you want, but honestly, I just kind of want to send that damage face.
That's a lot of damage face.
Literally just a Pyroblast.
Could he have? I can't see what spells he has left in his deck. It's like, okay. Oh.
That does not work like that, Possessi. That is not going to kill that A-Chop.
Well, he could rip off the Divine Shield and then Storm Strike.
I guess, but I mean, he just didn't send 10 damage face. I don't know. Question mark.
So picky today, Derek.
I guess. I mean, yeah, sure. You kill off an AA. It's fine. It's still winning.
Yeah. I feel like everything is killing the game here. He's winning the game here, killing the game.
He's just gonna rip out his monitor. He's killed the game. And that's about the quality of top deck I think we can come to expect for the rest of the game. There's Varian left for Tsai Miao. There's a Walker. No, he's played both of those, both Aldors, both Devout Pupils. I think he's played pretty much every other threat in his deck. It's McGurgle into McGurgle Prime is about the best I can offer.
Yeah, and that's if he would have the time, which I just don't think he does, to be quite honest. Cool. Multicaster. Nice. 3 spells.
Nice.
Devolving.
Oh,
Fireheart.
get out of here, sign me out. It's over. Okay, can that get Varian or something stupid like that?
I don't even know if Varian even has anything impactful to draw from the deck. It'll draw the McGurgle.
Yeah.
But like beyond that, it's just not really doing much. And Tai Miao is probably going to be dead next turn, regardless of what he does.
Probably.
Is there a second Justice?
No, they only run one.
Okay. Down to 6.
Oh, that is not it, is it?
Can't even kill off the claw machine.
And you can't even trade the city tax because you're going to need the city tax, even if it's just for like lifesteal, I think, to claw your way back out of range of all this damage.
Yeah.
Wah wah. End of the road. That's going to do it for Tsai Miao, and that's going to do it for Team China as well, losing both of their series to APAC, who just felt like they got the better of them once they won with the Shaman Mirror. It was a lot closer in the first series, where it came down to Alutemu to get the wins with the Druid. But in the end, the sweep here for Possessi is just unstoppable. This man is so strong on this deck. I love the way he plays it. He's incredibly liberal with his resources. And honestly, I feel like I've learned a lot, even just in the couple days I've seen him play this deck. It's very cool to see.
Yeah. Fantastic performance. And it feels like the Q Quest Shaman game 1 and then lose to it. It is APAC strategy. We've got them right where we want them. Now we get to counter it.
With itself.
With itself. Yeah, but a very impressive series, and it does feel like they, obviously this whole kind of metagame of this format seemed like it was quote-unquote solved pretty quickly. Once it got down to it, I'm sure in the players' prep they realized what things would come down to. Surprised there wasn't some kind of hope for an answer against the Quest Shaman, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, with 4 decks going away, it's hard with what you have remaining to find something that can beat it consistently enough, instead of just having a lineup that's filled with overall strong decks beside it. So not a big surprise when you really dig down deep, especially since it's not really a format that players play often or are going to play very often. These 10 deck formats are not something we've seen very often at all. And even beyond that, 10 deck last hero standing is an even further stretch from that point. So definitely impressed by Asia Pacific today. I do think China had some moments of brilliance themselves, and then both teams had some questionable moments to add on top of everything.
Yeah, a couple of real head scratchers. Welcome to casting to Asia Pacific. 90% of the time, it's the mostly the Japanese players playing just lights out Hearthstone. It feels like their opponent can't even get their foot in the door. And then 10% of the time, they just absolutely fart everywhere, it feels like, with their gameplay. It's just disaster. The Shaman winning every single game in this series, I think quite indicative of the way this format will continue to go, and all the big combo decks are banned away. Shaman gets to come out to play, and that's exactly what Possessi did.
Yeah, and there's the points totals. 3-1 in favor of Asia Pacific, with the 2-0 in constructed. And then Mercenaries, still to come, I believe.
I think so, yeah. I believe that Mercenaries will be happening after this event, hopefully, or after this constructed.
Okay. And so a chance for China to make a comeback there. But APAC definitely cleaned up in this constructed aspect after splitting in Battlegrounds earlier in the day. So, okay. Well, as you can take a look at these very cool graphics, we're going to have to go to a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We're going to have some Mercenaries action coming up right after this.